All right, guys, today we're going to be revisiting the Galaxy S9 Plus here. Fantastic older flagship. I do really love revisiting these really old phones. It's like going, back in time. It's Samsung's 2018 flagship. This is before we get to the, Ultra models. I think the Ultra comes in at the S20 series. And yeah, this is a very cool phone here. What's funny is it's a plus phone, but it's only a 6.2-inch phone, so it's actually kind of a smaller phone, I guess. For today's standards, right? It's not like an actual small phone, but yeah, I really love the color on here. I think the color options they actually had at this time were pretty good. I'll try to pop the other ones on the screen for you guys, but they had a really nice blue color, a titanium gray color. The red color looked really nice. They had some really great colors. Yeah, but I really like this color, especially the way it hits the light here. Now you will see a little bit of fingerprints on the back of this phone, of course, so you just kind of have to wipe it off like a lot. But overall, I really like the hardware. I think it looks really great. We got the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack down here, and we also do have, of course, micro SD card support. It's IP68, and I would say the fingerprint scanner it works perfectly fine. Most people it's like a hit or miss this placement. I think the perfect place for a fingerprint scanner, like a physical one, would be how the S10e did it, where you just put it in the power button. So they have it right here, which, I mean, it doesn't feel as natural for me, but you would pick it up like this and then tap it. It doesn't feel as natural, because I think even the on-screen one feels a little bit more natural, because you would pick your phone up and boom, this feels a little bit more of a stretch, but it does work. And also, this phone has a pretty cool little feature as well with the hardware, which if we go into a Samsung Health application, we can actually check our heart rate, which is pretty cool. So we measure it, we put our finger right here, and this little red thing will start beeping. Like that is pretty cool. Now, of course, Samsung, took this tech away. A lot of the watches and stuff, do it now. But it does work. It's somewhat accurate, I guess. You guys will let me know. I don't know much about stuff like that, but I've tried. It does work. And yeah, so that's pretty cool with the hardware. It also has this pretty cool iris scanner as well. So I'll see if I can get it to toggle here. But it's this little scanner up here that it'll scan your eyes. I don't think I might not have it on, but you do have it on here. So it'll actually scan your eyes. So there's a lot of cool tech in the S9. Kind of cool thing with the design here, as you guys can see, it kind of gets really thin in the middle, and then it kind of gets a little bit thicker down here as well too. So it gives it this kind of look to where it's really sharp and thin on the sides here. It gives it a really cool look. Now, it's a full glass and metal phone. This, I think, hardware has stood up pretty well here. I got this phone used refurbished, and I mean, it's very solid. It just feels very a solid feeling phone. Reminds me of the V60. It just feels expensive, you know what I mean? Another thing is that the S9 Plus screen is actually really nice. And one thing I appreciate about Samsung is at that time, a lot of people were basically putting notches on their phone, and they kind of waited until, they got their punch hole together with the S10 series, which is really nice. So this is basically, just all screen. And yes, the bezels are, pretty, big here. But it's a 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display. It is HDR10. This thing looks really beautiful. The colors really pop out. I would say certain wallpapers, just if you have a colorful wallpaper, it just feels like it's just popping out the screen. That's how good the colors are. And I know the Super AMOLED panels compared to the newer dynamic AMOLED panels are not as color accurate, but these screens look great. They're always fun to look at, especially for kind of really vibrant content like this game and just other games. It just makes everything look very alive and just pops out the display. Another cool thing that Samsung was doing at the time was that these are very high resolution panels. These are 1440p screens here, and they have very high PPI. We're talking about 529 for the S9. So when you look at icons and everything close up, this thing is extremely sharp looking. Everything looks crystal clear on these panels. The reason why I bring that up is because if we look at like an let's say an S21, those phones are around the same size. So the reason I bring that up is because if we look at like their later models on like some of the plus models, like an S21 Plus and S22 Plus, those phones have 1080p displays, and you could tell the difference. Even though displays look good, they don't look as good as sharp as these screens. Like you load up 1440p content, or you just look like really close up because of the really high PPI on a smaller display, everything is crystal clear. So that's why I really like these older displays. It is a curved panel, which a lot of people don't like. These days the industry has kind of moved to, back to flat panels now. But I think the curved panel still looks pretty cool. I think it was like, a cool trend at the time. But yeah, the display looks great. Of course, if I was to say what has aged with the display, if you kind of take this phone out in direct sunlight, you can barely see it. But besides that, it's still pretty smooth for 60 hertz as well too. Like, of course, I can tell it's 60 hertz, but it's pretty smooth. So that's something that's also really good. I was just coming back to this phone thinking it was going to be extremely slow feeling, but it's not. And yeah, so I think display looks great. So this phone is still pretty quick with the Snapdragon 845 chipset. The global model has the 9810 chipset on here, and yeah, it's still pretty smooth. You might find like some little animation stutter and hiccups here, but One UI 5, it's not bad. It's not super slow. You can still download all the apps and stuff. This phone, of course, is not getting any security updates or anything like that, but you can still update, download apps. Cool thing is the little Gemini assistant is actually here, so you can go ahead and just talk to it like you would on any other phone, and it's actually pretty useful. And yeah, I don't have any issues. I wonder if we could still play PUBG at 60 frames. All right, let's see. We go to graphics. Yeah, we can still play at 60 frames. I mean, it still feels pretty smooth, which is pretty impressive. So I just don't have any performance issues with the S9. Plus, I'm sure like if we like really like load up a bunch of stuff, we'll start to see it kind of like start lagging and stuff like that. But I mean, just general performance, like every time I come back to this phone, it's always consistently smooth. And yeah, so I don't really have any issues with that. This phone never really heated up. So this phone and the S10, the 855 chipset, never really had any issues with it like heating up to the point where it's like uncomfortable to hold or anything like that. So I've always appreciated that. But yeah, so far like the S9 Plus it's still a pretty it's a pretty powerful phone when it comes to just general performance. I would say it's smoother than a lot of these cheaper mid-range phones that you would have these days. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let's check out the speakers. We're at max volume. The speakers are very good. There's a good amount of bass here, and overall a really nice balanced sound. No distortion. Yeah, they're like crystal clear. Very good, quality speakers here. The only thing I would say here is that, the phone speakers today have just gotten way louder. And the bass is just way louder as well too. It kind of struggles on the low notes. I can't really hear them, but the kicks are there. I can't hear the 808, so the speakers do sound pretty solid. They're actually very clean sounding as well too. And yeah, so I do want to talk about the cameras because the cameras are pretty interesting on here. Every time I come back to these older phones around this year, it kind of gives you like a really cool like vintage look at this point. But then also some of the shots look pretty good. Some of the shots look pretty good. Samsung used to do this thing where they would make everything extremely colorful. So if it was a green color, it was extremely green, which is something that, you know, it's not really realistic. Like if it's a red, it's like super red. But if you give this phone enough light, you can get a pretty solid looking shot from this phone. So I'm always kind of impressed coming back to these phones. But of course, like with any older flagship, it'll kind of fall apart in low light situations. So the phone has a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto. So around that time, the ultra wide wasn't the, you know, main secondary camera like it is now. But yeah, so we have that. It's 4K 60, and then it has an 8 megapixel selfie with a 2 megapixel dedicated iris scanner camera up front, and that shoots in 1440p 30 frames. And the shots look great, you know, for the most part for a 2018 phone, but of course, you know, it's gonna fall apart in low light, and the color looks really weird. But yeah, some of these shots they look really clean, so I was always impressed. The video, of course, is, you know, gonna show its age. It doesn't look terrible, but it kind of has like that Android kind of digital look to it, especially if it's out of S9 Plus. It kind of has that digital look to it. The video, if you like take it out of like low light situations, but it's not bad at all. I think some of the shots again look pretty decent. A selfie camera is not horrible. That's why I said my main issue with this camera is really more so skin tones, and just overall general color. You would always be like tweaking the color to make it look right. S9 Plus has a 3500 milliamp hour battery with 15-watt charging, so I guess it does charge, you know, kind of slow for today's standards. And it has wireless charging as well. And when I was using the phone, I didn't think the battery life was like too bad. I don't remember it really being like really great, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, overall, the S9 Plus I think has aged very well. It's always a cool phone to look at and come back to, kind of see what Samsung was doing, you know, at this time. With you know, everything was just really. It felt like you were getting a lot for your money, especially with the unboxing experience. Headphone jack, the SD card support, but again, we know times change. A lot of, you know, storage is going to the cloud servers now, and you know, everything is really camera focused and AI focused. So yeah, it's pretty cool to come back and look at this, you know, phone here. So what do you guys think?